Hi, I just wanted to do a relatively quick video just going over the basics of modules. So there's two types of modules. There's a UMC, a simple user module, I think that's what it's called, and a USP, which is a user simple plus module. I'm not talking about the USP right at this point. Those are ones done in simple plus. I'm talking about the user module that is done right inside simple. And the way that these work is they're actually not compiled. They are kind of just a collection of objects that on compile time of your master program, they become compiled together with all of that. So here is, I just went new, I did start new simple module. So that's what this is here. It comes with this define arguments, but when you actually create it, it pops up with this module header, and it's very important here. Some of the stuff that is part of it. So module hint, that's something that shows up in simple as you look at the module. Programmer, this is more just comments than anything. Compiler version and firmware version. You could press those. It will try to actually connect to a processor, which I don't really care, so I'm just going to get rid of those. I think it just populates a text file. Encoding type, I always keep this as ASCII. I haven't done anything there. This, I never checked that. That's fine. This lets you choose which folder it shows up in simple. And I'll just show you an example. Where's simple here? In this program here. Just wait for it to load here. So that's if you look under here, what grouping it will show up. Now it doesn't actually show up in this section. It will either come in under project modules or user modules. So let's just put that here for a second. In a lot of cases you can just keep it as miscellaneous. It doesn't affect the operation, it's just more the grouping. You can create your own custom category too if you want. Target control system is pretty important. If I have it selected as a 2 series and my processor in this project is a 3 series, I won't even see it in this list, and you'll scratch your head trying to figure out what the heck's going on. This is basically filtering out for the control processor type that is set. Actually, sorry, that's not here. In here, I'm not going to go back to the configure view, but it's an RMC3. That's obviously a 3 series processor. So in most cases, I just have 2 and 3 series selected. I just held down control there. You could probably do unspecified too. All this other stuff is older, X generation and stuff. Help, this is the help you see in simple. Or you could define a PDF help file, and you'll still see some modules from the application market that do that. Device support, I actually have no idea what this does. I never really mess with this. I'd have to look into that. It says system builder, so it probably has a lot to do with system builder, which is something I never use. Interface connection logic, again, that's the way that you can drop a module in and connect a bunch of logic. I don't really get into that, so as a beginner you probably don't need to get into that either when you're making modules. It's probably for more advanced custom stuff where you want to use a module in a bunch of different cases. So I'm just going to keep this basic stuff, and I'm not even going to do anything about a hint. It'll basically be the file name. Actually, maybe I could type hint just so we know. Module, because what I'm going to do is show this in simple. Hint. So it doesn't really matter what's in the module. You can have you can basically have the same groupings. You can have a sub for a folder. You can give it names. Just press tab, name this. You can have, say, an OR gate. This is an OR gate. And all this logic. The only difference is you don't have the hardware section. Where stuff comes into the module and goes out of the module is through this argument definition. And this actually has Instead of the typical analog serial digital that we've seen in other types of blocks, this puts it all in as one, and it's green, so it's kind of undefined, and there's also a spot for parameters. And the interesting thing about this argument definition is, unlike pretty much anywhere else in simple Windows, this is how your symbol looks inside the program. It's not necessarily how it looks inside the module. So for example, this is an input signal to the module. And this is an output signal from the module. Now they're still green because they don't connect anywhere else, so we don't know what type to define them as. There might be you could put in like an analog or digital force, but you don't need to because you're going to actually connect those somewhere. So the interesting thing here, so I click on here, I'll press F2 and see where it's routed. And see, it says there's no driving source, but there's a destination. So it's actually going, that makes you think that it's screwed up, right? Because it has no destination. It's wrong. Ignore that essentially, because that's an input signal. That's the output signal. So let's just do this. Input 0, 1 and 0, 2, and I'll just have output. And I'm just going to make a parameter here, and we can use that parameter. There's a special formatting, and if you look in the help file here, it's a little bit ambiguous, and there's actually a small bug under it. But if you encapsulate it with this, you can use that in a different part of the program. So if I was going to use, let's just do something simple. Like say this is going to be delay time. And I could have a stepper. This module isn't going to do anything really, but let's say I'll drive this from the OR. Doesn't really matter what this logic is doing, but you can put this parameter in here as pound delay time, and it'll actually let you F2 it and see where it goes. It kind of connects them. You can't F3 it to see routings or anything, but that will do it like that. The special encapsulation here is if you need to define it as, say, a decimal, or you need to add stuff to it. I'm trying to think of a good example where you would need to see that. It's basically an escape. So you could use that as a partial, basically a partial string. That's what they do here. So you can just look at the help file and see they've got the address byte in here, and so they're doing some hex characters, and they're putting the address byte and another hex character all inside the module. In this case, I'm using it directly, so it doesn't really matter. The bug that I was referring to, I'm trying to remember the exact conditions that it happened in. There was some case where I had trouble taking an existing escaped parameter and changing it. It was trying to validate the input. I know I'm getting way too advanced. Basically, there might be a bug if you're trying to do fancy stuff with arguments. In most cases, this will work okay for you, and really, there aren't a lot of people that use this anyways. It's kind of more of an advanced thing. Okay, so just see here, this output doesn't run anywhere. So as you can see, it's really counterintuitive to have an output connected to, or an output connected to an output, and you F2 it and look at it, and it kind of has both as a driving source, but it's actually correct. So now, here's the biggest problem that I see with modules, is you have to save it either in your user module directory or the same directory as the project. I'm going to put it here. This is the same directory as the project. My module and the reason it takes a while to save is it's updating kind of the database. There's some special characters you can use to leave yourself gaps. And I'm not sure where it talks about those. Maybe in the help file for the module. It might talk about them somewhere, but I know that, actually I'm pretty sure, it might actually be like this. The reason I got all these, or some of these, is through looking at other people's user modules, like stuff from the database, or even stuff, if you want, you can open up some of these Crestron modules, and you could import, or in some cases, you can actually like edit them. I guess import is what you need to do. So you could actually take a look in most cases of what's actually built, unless somebody put a password on the module. And password, set password protection if you want. I'm not going to do that. I'm also going to have an analog in and a serial in. And the unused is just a blank so that it doesn't take up space, or it gives you a gap basically. Analog out, serial out. Now the name of these is actually the name that it will show up when you import the module. I'll show you that in a second here. I'm just going to put a buffer and an S buffer to pass those through. I kind of did that backwards. And you'll notice, because these analog and serial buffers can be either analog or serial, I do need to use a force. I think it's S force and A force. Because if it's green, it'll throw an error. Since I define the input as serial, the output is already serial. So that's good. And probably the same thing for analog. Yep. Sort of. It didn't change these ones. So I guess I'm going to add these two. Usually you'd actually have some stuff happening to the signal, so it would be a different signal. Where's my serial force? There. I'm going to save that again. Now notice there is, I can't do it now because it's thinking, but there's actually no compile for the module because it gets compiled with the parent program. So that's my module. Now I'm in my parent program, which doesn't have anything yet. But it's already, I haven't reloaded this. It's actually, remember the time I said it was taking to rethink? It's kind of rebuilding the database. Under miscellaneous, because that's where, I'm just going to split these side by side so we can compare. We put it under miscellaneous. It also shows up under all project modules. And my module, which is the file name, mymodule.umc. And module hint, this is the hint, module hint. And if I press F1, this is the help. So that's what I put in here. Now we need to drag the module in. We'll see what it actually looks like. Oops. I need to double click it first. There we go. For some reason it wasn't showing. So this is my module. So I'm just going to put them side by side so you can see. I think I probably clicked save or something there. So this is how we defined it. And you see input 01, that's this here. Input 02 is that. Unused, and we left a gap. Analog in, that's that. Serial in. And delay time, that's the name we gave it, and that's the space. So here you go 5 seconds. In 01, in 02. A in, S in. Out. On, out. Delay. Out. I'm not going to actually test this. I will compile it. I don't really need to load it, but I'll compile it anyways. So that's how this is backwards. This is exactly how it looks side to side. Like you see the out on that side, out on that side. So that's why I say it's backwards inside the module. So you F2 this and it'll screw you up because it's both coming from one side. I would expect the argument definition to be up here. But I think they built this back when System Builder was used a lot more, and people that didn't really understand how to put together a simple program were probably getting confused because everything was backwards to them, because they would import it and everything would be on the opposite sides. So just keep that in mind, that it's like completely backwards. And as long as you do that, your in and out of the module is all handled through that, and then dealt with in here. Now a module is a wrapper, right? So it can also contain SIMPL plus, and this happens a lot actually, where you'll have, I don't even have a USP here to show you, but you'll have a lot of modules with a SIMPL plus driver inside of them, and I should open one just to show you. I'm just going to pause it here and find one. So I'm just looking here in user modules. And if you want to know where these directories are, I think it's under options, preferences, and directories. So your user modules, these are the UMCs, the SIMPL plus modules, the USPs, or in the project directory, of course. So I'm just going to import one of these that I know will have what I want. Oh, you can actually edit it. So I will edit in a new instance. Just going to pause that for a second. So here is the one of the modules. It's for a Cisco video conference unit. This is the UMC, and under probably common, yeah, here's a SIMPL plus. So I'll just look at the argument definition. This one is huge. It's got groups, begin group, end group. The best way to really learn this stuff is just grab one of these modules, like at Cisco SX80. You can find that in the application market. Download it and just pull it apart and start poking at it, see what it did. But it's basically just a huge list of stuff, and the groups are stuff that are expanded with tabs, basically to add or to access different groups. Let's see if I can show you that quick. And interestingly enough, you can put a module inside a module. So this is a UMC. But here, these are groups, plus plus. So this looks really fancy, right? This is what it is. Just a bunch of stuff. SIMPL plus here, similar. It's got ins and outs and defines. If you right click, I can edit the user module. We're not going to talk about programming SIMPL plus here or anything, but it has the same mechanism where you declare your inputs and your outputs and stuff here, and that's what tells this what it should look like essentially. So SIMPL plus has to be compiled before you can even put it in here. The UMC does not need to be compiled. And I'm just going to remove this here. I'm going to throw it, well, I've already got it in my other program, so I'm just going to show you how it compiles here. If I can find my window here. this one. And so that compiled. I'm not going to load it, but that's basically how you put a module. And of course I have some errors because there's stuff that's not going anywhere. So that's all the time I got for this little quick video, but I just wanted to kind of go through some modules. Any questions, just let me know and I'll try to fill in some gaps and maybe record another video.